I'm a 36-year-old man, and what I want to share happened to me just 2 years ago. But the story truly begins 3 years ago when my older brother died in a car crash. He wasn't just my brother, he was my closest friend. There was only a 1-year gap between us, and we grew up like twins, always side by side. His death was a devastating shock, one I couldn't fully comprehend. Every day that passed, I missed him more. It was as if a part of me had been ripped away, leaving behind a silence no one else could fill. During the day, I went to work and tried to carry on like nothing had changed. But every evening, after returning home, I followed the same quiet ritual. I would stop by the little flower shop near my house, buy a small bouquet, and head to the cemetery. It was usually late by the time I arrived. The world around me had quieted, and I was always alone. For a whole year, I visited his grave like this, in the stillness of night, just the two of us. I'd sit there beside him, talking softly, crying when the words failed. Half an hour would pass in silence or tears. And when I had nothing left to say, I'd stand up, empty-handed, and make my way home again, a little heavier, a little more hollow each time. Some nights, as I sat in the cemetery, I began to hear voices, soft conversations carried on the wind, the crunch of footsteps on gravel. I started paying closer attention and realized that I wasn't the only one coming to visit a loved one in the stillness of night. Slowly, I began to notice how many people came and went, each one carrying their own grief, their own story of loss. Sometimes, I would walk over to the graves of their deceased. I didn't want to intrude, I only wished to offer a quiet condolence, a gesture of shared sorrow. But the first time they saw me there, alone, standing in the darkness, I think they were startled. Perhaps they didn't expect to see someone like me, lingering silently among the gravestones. When I approached and offered my sympathies at their loved one's grave, many looked at me with surprise, some even with discomfort. But the moment they saw me walk toward my uncle's grave or stop beside my brother's resting place, their expressions would change. Without a word, most would quickly return to their cars and drive away, as if my presence reminded them of something too raw, too close. There was something about being alone in that place, night after night, that made me feel both invisible and too visible at once. I wasn't there to frighten anyone. I was just a man mourning his brother in the only way he knew how. This quiet ritual continued for a long time, until something changed. The mother of one of my close friends passed away. He knew about my nightly visits to the cemetery, how I spent an hour each evening sitting by my brother's grave. One night, he told me he wanted to come with me. Maybe he wanted to understand what I felt, or maybe he just didn't want me to be alone anymore. He brought his young son with him. It was late when we arrived at the cemetery. The night was unusually still, the sky clear, the air calm. We lit candles at the graves, small flames flickering like fragile souls in the darkness. For a few minutes, everything was silent and peaceful. Then, suddenly, a gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew out the candles. There was no sign of wind before, not even a breeze. My friend turned to me immediately, uneasy, and said, "Let's go, let's get out of here." His son stood close to him, clearly frightened by the strange moment. I nodded. I didn't want to scare the boy. As we began walking back, I stopped briefly at my uncle's grave. His resting place was just a few steps away from my brother's. I placed a single flower gently on the soil, whispered a quiet prayer, and then returned to the car. My friend and his son were already inside, waiting, their expressions tense and silent. I noticed they were both shaking, like willows caught in an unseen wind. But when we returned home, they tried to play it off. They laughed nervously, pretending the fear was nothing, that everything was fine. After that night, my friend stopped coming with me. I didn't ask him why. I understood. So I returned to my routine, visiting my brother's grave alone, just like before. Weeks passed. Then, one night, it must have been around 2 in the morning, my phone rang. It was my friend. His voice was different, shaky, quiet. I could tell he'd been crying. I sat up, suddenly alert. "Why are you calling me at this hour?" I asked. He hesitated, then said something that took me completely by surprise. "Can we go to the cemetery again?" I blinked in the darkness, confused. "Tomorrow?" I asked. "I'll come get you after work." "No," he said quickly. "Not tomorrow. I miss my mother. I need to see her tonight." There was a desperation in his voice I'd never heard before. I was silent for a moment, trying to make sense of it. Tonight? But I was just there, and you know I have to be up early for work. He didn't let me finish. "Please," he said, "I need this. I need to go now." His insistence left me with no choice. I sighed, reached for my keys, and said, "All right, get ready. I'll be at your place in 20 minutes. When I arrived at his house, he was already standing outside, waiting. He didn't say much, just nodded and quickly got into the car. We headed off into the deep hours of the night toward the cemetery. The roads were empty, the world felt still. When we arrived, I parked the car near the gate. The place was completely deserted. Not a single soul around, no voices, no wind, not even the usual chirping of crickets. Just a vast, unnatural silence that hung in the air like a heavy curtain. Something didn't feel right. Fear slowly crept over me, crawling up my spine. I didn't know why, but my whole body was tense, as if it knew something I didn't. Then suddenly, we saw it. In the middle of the graveyard, there was a single grave with several candles lit around it, glowing softly like eyes in the darkness. Before we could say a word, we noticed movement in the upper part of the cemetery. A group of people, several women, all dressed in flowing white, were standing silently among the graves. Around them, children were playing, running in circles, laughing without sound. 1 or 2 of the children were riding bicycles, slowly circling through the mist that had started to form on the ground. It was the most unreal, haunting thing I had ever seen. I couldn't speak, I couldn't even move. My friend turned to me, his face pale. "Let's go," he whispered, voice shaking. "Let's get out of here, now." I was frozen for a moment, staring at the quiet figures in the darkness. And then, the fear hit me hard. I nodded. "Yes, let's go, right now." My friend's voice trembled again as he urged, "Let's go back." I didn't know what to do. My mind was spinning with fear and confusion. But then he grabbed my hand firmly and started pulling me away from the cemetery. We ran as fast as we could, heading toward where I had parked my car, only to find something that stopped me cold. My car wasn't there. In its place, 2 funeral cars were parked near the entrance gate, their dark shapes looming silently in the night. Even more unsettling, my car's doors were wide open. I froze, staring in disbelief. "Who opened my car's door?" I whispered. My friend, panic rising in his voice, said, "Just turn on the car. Let's get out of here." I fumbled with the keys and started the engine. As the car hummed to life, I looked out again, bewildered. I parked near the entrance gate. Who moved my car all the way over here? My friend's eyes were wide. He almost shouted, "For God's sake, let's just leave, now!" The car began to roll forward slowly, and every moment I stole a glance in the rearview mirror, dread tightening my chest. We were so close to the entrance. Why hadn't I noticed those funeral cars before? Who opened my car door and moved it without us seeing? How had no one entered or left the cemetery while we were there? Questions rushed through my mind like a storm, but no answers came. The cemetery behind us was silent once more, but something had changed. I kept repeating the same questions to myself over and over. How could we not have seen those cars before? Why was my car moved, and who moved it? There was plenty of parking space at the cemetery. So why replace my car with 2 funeral cars? Who were those children running around? And those women in white dresses? What were they doing here? I slowly scanned the cemetery again, searching for any sign of family members or visitors, but there was no one, not a single soul. Meanwhile, my friend was begging me to speed up, to get us out of there as fast as possible. I pressed the gas pedal hard, and the car surged forward. The drive home was silent. Neither of us dared to speak about what had just happened at the cemetery. The heavy silence said more than words ever could. When we finally reached my friend's house, I stopped the car. He opened the door, looked at me seriously, and said, "Never ever go to the cemetery at night." Then he added, quietly but firmly, "Promise me." To be honest, I was more frightened than I wanted to admit, but to hide it, I forced a smile and said, "Don't go to the cemetery at night, promise you." After that strange night, some days passed. One afternoon, when I went to the cemetery with my family, I noticed a new sign posted on the gates. "The cemetery is closed at night." Since then, I've been busy with work and I haven't been able to visit as often. But deep inside, the memory of that night, the silence, the shadows, the mysterious visitors, has never left me.